Here's what most people never really tell you about the men who can't seem to move on from you. It's rarely because you were the most beautiful woman they ever saw. It's not because you said all the perfect things or played some flawless emotional strategy. The women who stay stuck in men's minds for years, who show up in quiet thoughts at midnight, who every new woman gets silently compared to, those women all share something they often don't even realize they're doing. They awaken a part of him he didn't even know existed. Every man walks around with emotional buttons buried deep under layers of logic and pride, hidden so well that even he doesn't know they're there. When you touch those places, not through games or acting, but through real understanding, something powerful shifts inside him. He starts to feel you in ways that reason can't explain. He checks his phone more often, hoping your name appears on the screen. He brings you up in conversations with his friends, casually at first, then more often. He begins to shape his week around the possibility of running into you or hearing from you. You become the thought that slips in when he's quiet, the image that flashes in his mind when he's supposed to be focused. And the strange part is, he can't quite make sense of it. He might tell himself it's silly, that it shouldn't be happening, that you're not even his usual type. But once those hidden switches are turned on, once something deeper than attraction is stirred, logic has no power over it. You start to live in his thoughts like a song that won't stop playing, woven into the rhythm of his everyday life. And the more he tries to reason it away, the stronger the pull becomes. But before you think this is about tricks or strategy, let's be clear, it's not. This isn't about pretending to be someone else or playing hard to get. It's not about withholding affection to keep him guessing. It's about understanding how men actually fall in love. Not the fairy tale version, but the real one that happens underneath the surface. Most relationship advice gets this completely wrong. It tells you to be softer, more giving, more available, as if love is a reward for being perfect. But men don't fall for perfect. They fall for specific. They fall for the woman who makes them feel something rare, something they can't quite describe and can't find anywhere else. That feeling isn't random. It follows patterns, emotional rhythms most people never learn to recognize because they're too focused on the wrong things, like how long to wait before texting or whether they came on too strong. But once you start to understand those rhythms, everything becomes clearer. You stop second guessing yourself. You realize attraction isn't random or chaotic. It's a pattern, a pulse, a kind of emotional frequency. And the very first frequency, the one that makes all the others possible, is what I like to call the present-absent rhythm. Most women believe being present means always being available, replying fast, always being warm, always ready to show up the moment he calls. And while those things are kind, that's not what keeps a man thinking about you when you're not around. True presence is something completely different. It's being fully there when you're with him and completely gone when you're not. Every man, even from the first meeting, is quietly asking himself two questions. First, when she's with me, is she really with me, or is part of her somewhere else? Maybe scrolling her phone, lost in thought, mentally checked out. And second, does she need me, or does she choose me? Is she here because she has nothing better to do, or because she truly wants to be? Most women get only one of those questions right. Some are always available. They drop their plans if he calls, text back instantly, rearrange their world just to make time for him. And at first, he might love that. It feels easy, flattering, comforting, but slowly the excitement fades. He stops thinking about her when she's gone, because why would he? She's always there. There's no anticipation, no mystery, no space for longing to grow. Her presence turns into background noise, nice but not captivating, familiar but not magnetic. Then there are women on the other end, driven, independent, busy. But when they do make time for him, their attention isn't truly there. Their eyes drift to notifications. Their minds wander to tomorrow's plans, and he senses it. He feels like he's just another appointment on her calendar, not someone she's genuinely with. Neither of these extremes creates that deep emotional pull, because both miss something essential. When you learn to be fully present when you're together and completely independent when you're apart, everything shifts. When you're with him, the rest of the world disappears. Your phone stays silent, your focus anchored in the moment. You don't just listen to his words, you listen to his energy. The subtle pauses, the shifts in tone, the spark in his eyes when he talks about what matters to him. You make him feel that right now, in this moment, he's the most interesting person in your world. But when you're not together, you don't fill the silence with noise. You're not performing independence or pretending to be busy. You're simply living. You follow your own passions, your own goals, your own friendships, without apology. You have a world that doesn't revolve around him, and he feels that difference even without you saying a thing. That contrast, the full intensity of your presence and the calm strength of your absence, creates something powerful in his psychology. It's what behavioral experts call intermittent reward. But in this case, it's not a game, it's just truth. You're not counting hours before replying, not pretending to be distant. You're living your life fully. And because of that, you create the space for his thoughts to come back to you naturally. When he's with you, he feels something real, something rich. And when you're not there, he feels your absence not as rejection, but as meaning, an echo that lingers. That echo is what keeps him curious. It's the space where fascination takes root. Here's what many women never realize. Men don't chase what they already have. They chase what they feel is valuable. And value doesn't come from always being available. It comes from depth, from substance, from having something truly worth showing up for. When you fill your life with genuine joy, when you build fulfillment that doesn't depend on his attention, he feels it on a deep level. He begins to want to earn his place in your world instead of assuming it. That's the real essence of the present-absent rhythm. Complete presence when you're together and complete independence when you're apart. That rhythm gives the connection its heartbeat, a living pulse that keeps him coming back. Not because you're withholding, but because being around you feels different. It feels alive, meaningful, and rare. And once a man connects you with that rare mix of warmth and mystery, grounded presence and calm independence, he can't forget it. He can't forget you. You're not the woman who's always there. You're the woman he can't stop thinking about. That's the first emotional trigger, the one that turns a casual spark into constant thought. The second is emotional recognition, and this one often surprises people because it's not about love in the way most think. Men don't stay with the woman who loves them the hardest. They stay with the woman who sees them the clearest. There's a huge difference between caring for someone and truly understanding them. Most women show care by giving, by offering affection, attention, effort, and support. They pour themselves into proving they're there for him, but that alone doesn't create the deep bond that makes him feel like he can't lose you. What does that is your ability to see beneath his surface, the parts of him he hides even from himself, the quiet burdens, the silent fears, the unspoken doubts. Every man moves through life performing. He performs confidence when he feels unsure, strength when he's exhausted, composure when he's barely holding it together, and most people believe the act. They see the mask and stop there. But when you learn to see beyond it, something powerful shifts between you. You start noticing the tiny signs, the way his shoulders tense when a certain topic comes up, how his tone changes under pressure, the flicker in his eyes when he's hurt but trying to hide it. And instead of prying or confronting, you gently acknowledge what you see. You say small things that carry deep meaning. You seem a little off today, long week, or that sounded like it hit harder than you wanted to admit. You're not judging or analyzing, you're recognizing. and those subtle moments of recognition land deeper than any compliment ever could. Because most men live in a world where they constantly have to explain, defend, and justify their emotions. But when you look at him and just know, something in him exhales. He feels seen without needing to perform, known without having to explain. That's emotional recognition. And when you offer it sincerely, it becomes unforgettable. It's the feeling of being truly understood without earning it, of being seen without performing for it. Let me share an example. A friend of mine came home after one of those long, heavy days. Nothing dramatic had happened, just a day that weighed more than it should have. He didn't want to talk or analyze or describe how he felt. He just wanted silence until the heaviness passed. His girlfriend at the time noticed something was wrong and kept asking questions, trying to help, to fix, to make him open up. But every question, though caring, made him shut down a little more. Not because he didn't appreciate her effort, but because it felt like pressure, like he was failing some invisible emotional test by not opening up on command. A few months after that relationship ended, he started seeing someone new. One evening, he came home from another exhausting day, dropped his keys, and sat quietly on the couch. This new woman looked at him for a moment and said softly, "Rough day, huh?" Then she just sat beside him without another word. No interrogation, no attempt to pull emotions out of him, just calm presence. After about 10 minutes of silence, he began to talk, not because she pushed him to, but because she made it safe to. That moment built a kind of trust most conversations never reach. It went deeper than words because she understood something most women don't. Men don't open up when you ask them to. They open up when they feel safe to, and that safety doesn't come from questions or advice. It comes from recognition, from seeing what he's not saying and showing him you're not going to punish or pressure him for it. That's emotional recognition, the art of reading his unspoken language. It means understanding that when he goes quiet, he's not necessarily shutting you out. He's processing. When he takes space, he's not pulling away from you. He's trying to figure something out inside himself. When he seems distant, it's often not about you. It's about the weight he's carrying internally. Instead of making his emotional patterns wrong or demanding he communicate the way you do, you meet him where he is. You give him permission to be human without explaining every emotion. When you do that, when you truly see him and accept what you see, he begins to trust you in a way he doesn't trust most people. You become the one person in his world he doesn't have to perform for, the one place he can take off the mask and not worry about judgment. And once a man finds that kind of safety in you, once he realizes you understand him without him needing to translate himself, he bonds to you on a level far deeper than attraction. You become essential to him, not out of neediness, but because you offer something rare, something he can't find anywhere else. Plenty of people may care about him, but you're the one who gets him. That difference changes everything. It turns short-lived chemistry into deep emotional connection. The kind that doesn't fade when the excitement cools. The kind that makes him think of you in quiet moments, realizing how rare it is to be understood that deeply. That's the second emotional button, the one that transforms attraction into attachment. The third button is something called freedom within commitment. This is where many women unintentionally push men away without realizing it. Here's the truth. Men don't actually fear commitment itself. What they fear is what they believe commitment will cost them. They fear losing their independence, their individuality, their freedom to exist without being questioned or monitored. They fear that loving someone will mean asking permission to be themselves. When a woman truly likes a man, she naturally wants more time, more closeness, more communication, and it comes from a genuine place, a desire to connect and build something meaningful. But to a man, it can start to feel like the walls closing in, like his freedom is being traded for her sense of security. The moment he feels that, when love starts to feel like losing parts of himself, he instinctively begins to pull back, not because he doesn't care, but because because caring starts to feel like surrender. But when you understand this and learn to create freedom within commitment, you become unforgettable. You become the woman he wants to commit to because being with you doesn't feel like sacrifice, it feels like choice. It means you don't panic when he wants a night to himself or time with his friends. You don't make him feel guilty for needing space. You don't demand constant updates to reassure yourself that he still cares. You trust him, not because you're naive, but because you're confident. And that confidence changes everything. When you give a man space without making him fight for it, when you respect his independence instead of treating it like a threat, he doesn't feel trapped, he feels free. And paradoxically, that freedom makes him want to choose you even more. You see this pattern all the time. Women who hold too tightly often lose the connection they're trying to protect, while women who allow space become the ones men can't let go of. It sounds contradictory, but it's not, because men only value what they choose freely, and they can't truly choose you if they feel forced to. Freedom within commitment also means keeping your own life alive, your friendships, goals, and personal rhythm that exist outside the relationship. When you stay grounded in your individuality, when you don't lose yourself in the us and forget the me, he sees you differently, not as needy or dependent, but as self-contained, capable, and magnetic. That's what earns his respect. Men don't want to be needed in a suffocating way. We want to be wanted. We want to be chosen by someone who could be happy on her own, but still chooses to share her happiness with us. That kind of choice feels earned. It feels valuable. When you build a connection that feels expansive instead of restrictive, he begins to associate you with possibility, not limitation. He doesn't see you as the person who took his freedom. He sees you as the one who made him feel more free. And once that connection settles in, once he realizes that being with you makes his life bigger, not smaller, he won't want to lose that. He becomes drawn not to control, but to the feeling of being deeply connected while still feeling like himself. And that's when love becomes something extraordinary, when it's not about possession or dependence, but about choice, freedom, and understanding. That's what real freedom inside commitment actually feels like. The moment where love expands instead of shrinking. The fourth and final emotional trigger is what I like to call the growth catalyst. This one decides whether attraction slowly fades away or transforms into something lasting and alive. Most people rarely talk about this, but it's one of the deepest truths about how men really work. Men fear stagnation. We're afraid of waking up one day realizing we've become the same person we were a decade ago, that somewhere along the way we stopped growing. The woman who can awaken growth in a man, not by demanding it or forcing it, but by gently inspiring it, becomes unforgettable. Notice the word inspire, not demand. Because that difference changes everything. Most women try to change men through correction. They point out flaws, offer suggestions, or hint at what he should do differently. And while those intentions might come from a caring place, they often backfire. They trigger defensiveness, resistance, and sometimes even distance. They make him feel like a project to be fixed instead of a man who's already enough. But the women who truly inspire men to grow take a very different path. They see what's good in him and reflect it back. They notice his strengths, his quiet determination, the way he keeps trying when things get tough, and they acknowledge it. Simple, sincere moments like, "I love how you stay calm when things fall apart," or "You have this rare gift of making people feel safe and seen." These aren't empty compliments, they're reflections. They show him you notice his essence, not just his surface achievements. When you mirror back the best parts of him, he starts seeing himself through your eyes. He begins to believe in that version of himself, the stronger, more capable version you already see, and then he naturally wants to live up to it. Not because you're pushing him, but because you've shown him what's possible within him. That's the essence of being a growth catalyst. You're not his teacher, you're not his therapist, and you're definitely not his fixer. You're the person whose presence quietly raises his standard simply because you keep raising your own. You're learning, evolving, pursuing goals, expanding your mind and heart. That kind of energy is magnetic. It lifts him without pressure. He starts to grow, not because you told him to, but because being stagnant around you feels unnatural. He wants to rise, to match your energy, to keep pace with the version of himself that you've helped him see. This isn't about competing or keeping score. It's about evolving together. It's about refusing to settle into the comfort that dulls your potential. And when a man finds a woman who brings that kind of growth into his life, who makes him feel like he's becoming more of who he's meant to be just by being near her, he doesn't want to lose that, because there will always be women who accept him as he is, but you're the one who sees who he could be, the one who believes in him when he starts to doubt himself, the one who mirrors his highest self until he begins to recognize it. That's the line between attraction that fades and love that endures, between comfort that soothes and connection that transforms. That's what turns an ordinary relationship into something unforgettable, a bond that doesn't just make him want you, but makes him want to become the kind of man who truly deserves you. That's the final button, the one that creates lasting attachment not only to who you are right now, but to who you both keep becoming together. And here's what it all comes down to. These 4 buttons, the rhythm of presence and absence, emotional recognition, freedom within commitment, and the growth catalyst, aren't tricks. They're not manipulative games or psychological tactics meant to control anyone. They form the quiet framework of genuine emotional connection. They're what separate the women men date from the women men can't ever seem to forget. The best part is, you don't need to fake a single thing. You don't need to pretend to be someone else, silence your emotions, or play mental chess just to keep his attention. All you have to do is understand what truly builds emotional attachment and have the courage to live it. Be deeply present when you're with him and completely invested in your own life when you're not. See him for who he really is, not for who you wish he might become. And do it without demanding explanations he isn't ready to give. Offer freedom within your bond instead of creating a cage that makes him feel trapped. Inspire his growth not through criticism, but through your own constant evolution. Let your personal progress be the quiet spark that lights his. When all of this starts to align, when these 4 elements become part of who you are, something shifts. You stop overanalyzing every message, every delay, every silence. You stop tying your value to his attention. You stop performing and start being. Because when you finally see that real connection isn't about control, it's about rhythm, everything changes. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You realize the right man doesn't need convincing. He doesn't need to be captured or persuaded. He just needs to feel the truth of who you are. You become the woman who is fully present yet never desperate. Warm yet grounded, understanding yet unshakably secure. You become the woman who makes him feel seen without him having to explain himself. The woman who gives him space without fear. The woman who turns commitment into expansion, not confinement. You inspire him to grow, not by demanding more from him, but by showing what it looks like to demand more from yourself. That's what captures his attention. That's what keeps him thinking about you long after you're gone. And when those 4 emotional buttons get pressed, not because you're trying to manipulate them, but because your authenticity naturally does, everything changes. He doesn't just stay curious, he becomes deeply drawn to you, not in a needy or obsessive way, but in a way that feels magnetic and grounding. He realizes that what you bring into his life is something rare, a mix of depth, kindness, and independence that he can't find anywhere else. Losing you wouldn't just mean losing a person. It would mean losing a feeling, a sense of connection that can't be replaced. And that's not manipulation, that's awareness. It's understanding how emotional chemistry and human psychology blend to create something real, something that doesn't fade with time but deepens with experience. That's what genuine connection feels like, the kind that grows through understanding, trust, presence, and shared growth, the kind of love that doesn't depend on performance but thrives in natural rhythm, because love at its core isn't luck, it's harmony. It's the alignment of moments, energy, and awareness. It's about pressing the right emotional buttons, not by strategy but by being your true self. And when that alignment happens, when both people meet in that space of growth and authenticity, you eventually look back and realize it wasn't luck that brought you together. It was timing, awareness, and courage. That's what keeps love alive. That's what makes it unforgettable.